Let's talk a little bit about the brand new Sydney Sweeney horror film, Immaculate. Now let's get into it. Welcome to the KillJoy Jake YouTube channel. My name is Sydney, and today we're talking a little bit about Immaculate. It's a brand new horror flick that literally just dropped in theaters and has been in the works for over a decade. I gotta give some mad props to the lead of this film and also producer Sydney Sweeney, who basically resurrected this film after auditioning for it over a decade ago. Long story short, Sydney Sweeney auditioned for this movie over a decade ago, like I said, but unfortunately the movie was just never made due to lack of funding. But now, of course, Sydney Sweeney has blown up because of Euphoria and also a brand new movie called Anyone But You, which I personally really enjoyed. A lot of people are crapping on that movie, but I don't see too many rom-coms that are horny anymore. I really appreciate that movie for standing out. It also has one of the most underrated ghost faces in the cast. She brought the film back to life so that it could be released here in 2024 alongside director Michael Mohan and writer Andrew Lobel. I think I speak for the entire indie horror community when I say thank you to all three of them fellas. Y'all made a killer horror flick here. It's not the first time that Michael and Sydney here have collaborated. They've worked on such projects like Voyeurs and Everything Sucks. Talking a little bit about the film, Michael Mohan says, "This one, Sydney was my boss. She hired me and I wanted to deliver for her. I'm very lucky that we just trust each other, and oftentimes when we're shooting, I'll do a take and we can look at each other and we know what the other one's thinking, and we just go into the next take knowing that we're on the same page. That shorthand is wonderful. It makes for a really good working relationship." They also decided to change the ending, which if you've seen the film, you know how it ends and you know that it's like the best part. Talking about that, the director says, "The ending was a lot more traditional and I had this idea for what the ending could be. I think it's perhaps the most disturbing ending of any mainstream horror film." Well, without spoiling anything, yeah, it pretty much is. Before we talk a bit about this movie spoiler-free, let's read that plot description. Immaculate follows Cecilia, Sydney Sweeney, a young woman of devout faith, who is invited to reside at a picture-perfect Italian convent. Her situation soon becomes a living nightmare as she realizes the convent harbors terrifying secrets. The film premiered at South by Southwest just a week ago on March 12th, and now it's out in theaters for everyone to see. And oh my god, I've been recording for 7 minutes now, and I've been waiting this whole time to say that this movie fucking bangs. This is easily my favorite horror flick of the year so far, and it is a must-see for the decade in terms of horror flicks. This was such a surprise hit. I was going into this as just like, it's another horror movie. Cool, it stars Sydney Sweeney. I like her. It is so much more than that. This script is so tight like a tiger. Immaculate is immaculate, down to its smallest idiosyncrasy, like the sound design. I've been so annoyed with movies that just seem so rushed in post. Imaginary is a great example, where the editing is super choppy, the sound design is just simply lazy. Immaculate is anything but Anyone But You. There are little tiny moments of this film where you just get a shot of like Cecilia walking down a hallway and it's like kind of dark and her footsteps are perfectly mixed. I mean, it's little tiny things like that that go such a long way. The inner film bro within me was kind of having an orgasm in the theater. I'm not gonna lie. That's a weird thing to admit to a bunch of strangers on the internet, but here I am. This is a shockingly disgusting movie. I was not expecting the levels of gore that we got here. If I had to say something negative about this movie, I mean, I guess it kind of plays on tropes of the genre, if we're talking specifically the subgenre of like religious horror. Movies like The Omen and The Exorcist are very comparable to this one. But just like Saint Maud from a couple of years ago, Immaculate stands on its own. Sure, it plays into familiar plot beats that you've kind of already seen in like The Omen, The Exorcist, but it's definitely its own thing, and like I said, that ending is instantly iconic. Easily one of the best horror movie endings in the last 10 years. This movie's like a 10 out of 10 from old Jake. This might be my favorite horror flick of all of 2024. It's gonna take a lot to beat it. All right, we're getting into spoiler territory, so go no further if you have not seen the movie. Seriously, you guys leave me comments all the time about how you watch the spoiler section of this video after I just told you not to do that. Please don't do it with this one. This is such a good movie. I'm talking like an instant classic. Go see this one in the theaters, experience it for the first time. Don't listen to some sweaty nerd on the internet talk about it. All right, for those who have seen it, like I said in the spoiler-free review section of this video, this movie fucking bangs. Immaculate is the surprise horror hit of this entire year. I just was not expecting this movie to go as hard as it did, but I don't know why my expectations were so low. It's distributed by Neon, who rarely misses when it comes to horror flicks. It stars Sydney Sweeney, who I think is absolutely incredible and a super kind person in real life as well. well. The writing, directing, sound design, score, everything about this movie is so good. This is everything The Nun 2 wanted to be and more. Let's talk a little more about those minute details though. The biggest criticism I've seen of this flick so far is that the execution simply isn't there, but this is just a slow burn movie. Like, it takes its time before it really gets to the big punch. And in my opinion, the setup is anything but a drag. It sets up a lot of Chekhov's guns, if you know what that is. And it does it in really creative and inventive ways, because you can just say things like, oh, we got this specialty pencil here, and it's not gonna come back in the third act, don't worry about it. And of course, it's gonna come back in the third act for something super useful. I will say, you know, like the nail in the cross thing, that was a little obvious that we were going to, you know, use that later on, but the chicken, I was not expecting that to come back. I thought that was just a one-off gag. No, this is a super efficient script. The effects in this movie are shockingly disgusting, which I really was not expecting from this movie. It's one of the biggest surprises of the entire flick. I was kind of going into this thinking like, okay, indie version of The Conjuring, so it's probably gonna be like really cool, really intricate with its story, but nothing too gruesome in your face. Oh no, was I wrong. There's a character that does this to themselves and you get to see the aftermath. Woo, that's gross. Very reminiscent of Midsommar, but still excellent. Gwen getting her tongue cut off is some of the best VFX mixed with practical that I've seen in a movie in a very long time. And the third act of this movie constantly makes you think, oh, it's over, and then it's not. Oh, it's over, then it's not. Biggest thing I'm talking about there is when Father Sal is burning up in his laboratory. You think it's over, you know, okay, guy's like literally on fire. Then the fire extinguisher goes off in the room and you're like, oh my God, it's still going. That could have been the ending. Like, that's probably the traditional ending the director was talking about, like I was talking about earlier. Lots of people talking. But oh no, this thing keeps going in a very barbarian-esque way where it's like we're diving deeper into this weird convent. Sydney Sweeney finds all these dead bodies. If it's like the girl from the opening, Gwendolyn with her face all fucked up. Why couldn't I say that? That was so hard for me. We get this ultra tense chase sequence at the end that genuinely had me and my girlfriend like on the edge of our seats like this. And then the ending of this movie is one long one take that I swear to God is one of the best endings to a modern horror flick I've ever seen. Sydney Sweeney pushes this Antichrist out of her, bites open the umbilical cord separating them, grabs a big rock and smashes her baby to death as it cuts to black. I think maybe like 15 minutes before this, you get the sense that this baby ain't living through this movie, but that was not the route that I thought they were going to go. It is one of the most gorgeous one takes I have seen in recent memory, and it made the entire movie for me. If it wasn't already made by everything else that was so good about this. Like the score done by Will Bates, the sound design, the editing, the cinematography, every minute detail of Immaculate fucking rocks. It comes in at a perfect runtime of 89 minutes as well. I don't know. I have nothing bad to say about this movie. It's so good. It's been a while since something like this really impressed me. I mean, I haven't loved a religious themed horror movie like this basically since 2013's The Conjuring. And it's not ironically good like The Pope's Exorcist, where I'm kind of laughing at it the whole time, but it's still enjoyable. No, Immaculate is just an excellent, terrifying horror movie from start to finish. I could not recommend it more, ladies and gentlemen. 2024 has a lot of killer horror coming up. I think we got a couple of 10 out of 10 horror movies that could top this one, like Alien Romulus from Fede Alvarez, Lee Winnell's Wolfman, or Terrifier 3. It's gonna be a struggle for that first place this year. That's all I'm saying, and I can't wait for all of it. What did you guys think of Immaculate though? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this brand new review. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content in the future. Please consider supporting me on Patreon by clicking that link in the description below. And as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.